Photosynthesis concept 4, I'm going to go through the first few slides pretty quickly. It's just a review over what we've already covered. Take notes. I'm hoping that this format will help you be able to take notes on your own while we're in class. If you're a little bit behind on some of the information, you can get your notes taken care of. So the overview is the ultimate sun, energy source, converting that energy source into food that we eat is photosynthesis, as we covered before. Energy from the sun is taken in by the plant through the leaves, the stomata, and it creates sugars which we use to eat. Again, water is absorbed through the roots. CO2 is absorbed through the stomata. Stomata is an opening on the bottom of the leaves. We will catch up on that here in a little bit. 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O in the presence of solar energy gives us C6H12O6 plus 6O2. Remember the reactants and the products. Those are things we will have on the test again over concept 4, 5, and our next concepts. Solar energy from the sun is necessary for photosynthesis to happen, as well as some enzymes, but it's considered a reactant or a product. Isn't considered a reactant or a product. We have the chloroplast, two main parts, the grana, pancake-like stack of thylakoid membrane. Stroma, fluid-like substance that fills the space between the grana. You'll need to know these vocabulary words. The grana and the stroma. Make sure you know these for our test. We know why plants are green, because they have chlorophyll in them. Chlorophyll is the pigment that helps with the sunlight. 2 stages of photosynthesis. This is where we're going to begin moving into. Next, we have the light dependent, which is photo. So photo means light. So keep that in mind. Requires solar energy, aka the electron transport chain, or light RXN. Light independent synthesis reaction. So independent, we don't use, it happens without light, without solar energy, I should say, not light, but solar energy, aka Kelvin cycle, the dark art reaction. Light-dependent reaction, the purpose, capture energy from the sun and store the energy carrying molecules ATP and NADPH. Location occurs in the grana, specifically the thylakoid membrane, where the chlorophyll is stored. Light-dependent reaction. Water molecules are split into hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen is released as a waste product. ATP and NADPH are charged up by the sun. Energy in the sun is passed down to the electron transport chain. Light energy excites the electrons. So this means electrons, in case you didn't realize what the E stands for. And they can combine with the final electron acceptors, carriers of NADPH and ADP, making DPH, and ATP. How is light absorbed? So this is things we need to remember. There are clusters of chlorophyll and proteins that trap energy from the sun. So the photons of the sun come down and they are trapped. Chlorophyll is a pigment that can be absorbed sunlight. Energy is transferred to electrons, making the and energy is transferred to electrons, makes excited electrons. What are electron carriers? Molecules that carry electrons in order to pass on the energy. The compounds NADPH that can accept a pair of high energy electrons. If you can see here, it has a charge, a positive charge, and electrons are negative, so high energy electrons are transferred to another molecule. NADPH grabs and carries 2 electrons and a hydrogen, and becomes NADPH. ATP and NADPH carry energy from the light-dependent reaction to the light-independent reaction. I know all this, these slides and this information seems a little long and boring, but this information you will need to know for the exam, so take the notes the best you can. Purpose of the light-independent reaction is uses energy from the energy carrying in the molecules from light-dependent reactions to make sugar glucose that we eat. This occurs in the stroma. Go back. The location is the stroma. And this is the stroma. This is what happens inside the chloroplast stroma. This information in here. You won't really need to know all of this in detail, but you need to see the light comes in, and then we have these reactions that occur. We have these hydrogens that are charged that are moving through the process. And we have the light-independent reaction known as the Calvin cycle. Series of enzymes-assisted chemical reactions powered by ATP and NADPH. The purpose, produce 3 carbons, that's right here, from CO2 and the hydrogen from water. The cycle happens twice, and then these 3 carbon sugars combine to make glucose, C6H12O6. Sweet stuff we like to eat. Light independent reaction details grab. CO2 diffuses into the stroma. Enzyme attaches carbon dioxide to 5 carbons, RUBP. Produces unstable 6 carbon molecules. They split. Energy from ATP and NADPH, and an enzyme breaks the 6 carbon molecule into 2 3 carbon molecules. They leave. Each 3 carbon molecule, PGA, is converted into a different 3 carbon molecule, G3P. One G3P leaves the cycle to become glucose. The other G3P moves to the next step. Switch. Remaining G3P converts back to the 5 carbon RUBP by using the phosphate from ATP, and the cycle starts again. So you can see these molecules of carbon, of different carbohydrates and sugars. This is just how the molecules are broken apart, and you can follow them through if you want to take a look at it and get an idea. Chemosynthesis, process of an organism making its own food using chemicals. Chemo instead of sunlight, photo like photosynthesis. This is the process that producers who cannot do photosynthesis do get energy. This is the process that producers who can't do photosynthesis to get energy. So this is what we do. Rate of photosynthesis, the light intensity, amount of carbon dioxide, more ingredients to work the process cycle, light intensity. This has to do even with solar panels. So the more solar we have, the more energy we get. Same thing in plants. The more light intensity, the more electrons get excited, causing light reactions to happen faster. Temperature. Increased temperature accelerates chemical reactions to a degree. Why do root cells in plants not need chloroplast? Because they don't catch sunlight. And they can't do photosynthesis. So the stomata is the opening under the leaves. Underneath these leaves, there's little holes that capture where plants lose water. CO2 enters and O2 exits. So the stomata is kind of like a little mouth opening on the plant. Maybe we'll get the microscope out and see if we can find some stomatas on some of the leaves from the greenhouse. If it's too hot or dry, the plant will close the stomata so that it doesn't lose that much water and becomes dehydrated. Then this eliminates gas exchange. So the levels of CO2 drop and the levels of O2 increase. This is the results in photorespiration. Photorespiration adds oxygen to the Kelvin cycle instead of carbon dioxide. This makes no sugar or ATP. So if we don't have moisture and it's dry and hot, then we lose food production and waste all of the plant's resources. Two types of alternative pathways in plants to avoid. They have to avoid this. The CAM C4. So CAM plants and C4 plants work better when it's hot. So CAM, this is done by cactus and pineapple. Open stomata at night and closed during the day. Opposite of normal plants. This causes them to grow slowly. They don't work as efficiently. Then the alternate pathways, the C4 plants, done by corn and sugarcane, partially closed stomata during the hottest part of the day, allows them to only need half as much water as normal plants. So these are better plants to be growing in drier areas. Hope that helps. So take your notes while we're working. Go back what you need to, and we'll go over test review soon.